This is going to be one of the most powerful videos that I've made. And the reason for that is because I want to talk today about spiritual resistance and what exactly spiritual resistance is and how you can overcome these spiritual obstacles that are being placed in your life. And there's a difference, I do think, between spiritual warfare and spiritual resistance. Spiritual resistance is more an internal conflict that is not being prioritized in your life that you need to be paying more attention to. And it's almost as if your ego is trying to proclaim its own sovereignty against the will of God. And it's also the case that during this time, the ego will try to maintain its sense of self-satisfaction, and it will also try to make you believe because you have to see your ego as the ego and notice it as the illusion itself. And the only way to move past this ego wanting to make you, the self, believe that it is capable of its own sovereignty is to completely surrender to what it is that you're feeling and to feel all of it. There is no other way. And when I say surrender, I don't mean give up. When I say surrender, I mean to completely allow what is going on in your life to be as it is in your life. Now, that can be very, very difficult because you may be around people that you don't necessarily want to be around. You may be around certain types of people that aren't good for you. But if you can accept that they are living in the darkness, then you're going to be able to transcend that darkness in itself. I also want to say that whenever you're feeling spiritual resistance, your faith will be tried. Your will be tried, and it will be tested. Your heart will be broken. There's no doubt on the spiritual path that your heart will be broken. And it's almost like if you're not on the spiritual path and your heart isn't broken, then you're really not on the spiritual path, because it takes someone that is deeply committed to love to end up being in the presence of God, because God knows what it's like. That's one of the reasons why Jesus was sent here, was because God knows what it's like more than anyone to be betrayed, to be doing everything good, and yet to still be crucified in the end. That's the point. And so God is actually understanding where you are and what you're doing in your life. God is actually aware of the pain that you feel. And because there's no more tragic story that could possibly be than the story of Jesus itself, it is the case that he has completed the moral compass and the overarching virtue of this life. And so you have to keep yourself strong in the spirit and in the truth, and accept that your relationships between anyone else apart from God, if you're trying to make the people in your relationships responsible for your happiness, you're also giving these same people the power to make you miserable. What I've come to realize, I'm only 27 years old, but I can tell you that I've seen so much of this life that it's really profound to me to think about, because in many ways I feel as though I've lived decades and decades longer than I really have. And it's only because I know that I can't just be around anybody. What in the world? Another fly's around. I can't just be around anybody, and neither can you. You can't just be around anybody, especially if you are someone that has something special to offer to the world. You've got to be very careful with your time. You've got to be very careful with your energy, because a lot of the times people will say things to make you think that they're worth it. You know, and it oftentimes it's you that are making things right in the relationship. And it's when you are able to walk away and surpass that internal spiritual resistance. Because a lot of the times, if you're feeling spiritual resistance, knowing that you need to walk away from a certain person and that you need to actually let go of this person, even though it hurts a lot, that's when you're going to be able to realize that you're the one making their life better by walking away. And they may be working on themselves after you leave to a certain extent, to where that stinking fly is everywhere now. It always comes up in the middle of the video for some reason recently. All the windows are closed. It's never around when I'm not doing the video, but always when I'm doing the video lately it comes out. Anyway, when you are actually not going to take this person back, and I've done this with a lot of different kinds of people, and it's hurt a lot because I do want them back. Like, I do want them. And I have that internal conflict of, I do want them back, but I also know that their actions have demonstrated otherwise, that they're not capable of being in my life long term. You know, I've had friends, family, beautiful women that have like come and go in my life. And looking back, it makes sense, but in the moment, it didn't always make sense. It didn't make sense when I was being in the middle of a smear campaign with my family. It didn't make sense that I was being stomped on by my friends, and I didn't understand why I was just being let go of. And then, oh, we want you back now, by this friend group that I had when I was in my early 20s and late teens. And, you know, and I moved around quite a bit during the years of my late teenage years, I suppose, up until college. I lived in a different town, sometimes a different town every few months for the duration of my high school years. I was at a different school my 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And so I never really got to experience that long-term friendship, but I also never got to get too close to people in that time period. But what made it really impactful for me during all those moves was that it was actually very good for me at the time, and I didn't realize it. And the reason that it was so good was because it made me used to change. It made me used to the idea that a lot of times people aren't going to be around a lot. People live different lives, and you may be friends one minute, and then the next minute you may not be all too close. And that's okay. That's just kind of how life goes. And you don't wish them any ill will, but you still need to be the person that God is creating you to be and has created you to be. And that's what the whole spiritual journey is all about, is overcoming the spiritual resistance internally so that you can be the person that you were created to be. And I'll tell you right now, it can be very challenging. Like right now, I'm going through a period where, for me, it's not like I'm in a bad place mentally at all. It's just more like I'm seeing the burdens of truth lined up on my shoulders. And I've had this feeling before, and I have felt like the weight of the world and the weight of existence bearing down, like a tree just slamming you. It's struck by lightning and it strikes you down. But this is different. It's more like I see the weight and I'm carrying the weight and I'm doing well with carrying the weight. But it does not mean that it's still, like, it doesn't mean that it's not difficult. And you're going to go through times like this on any part of life. But keeping the duration and keeping the commitment and keeping the dedication throughout this time is what's going to save you from yourself, really, in the long run. But you have to realize that your ability to walk away from certain individuals is going to be your superpower in regards to overcoming spiritual resistance. And again, it's not the funnest thing to cut people off. It's really not. Especially, and I'm not saying you should treat them like shit. That's not what I'm saying at all. They're still a human being, and especially if they haven't really done you wrong. Really, like, if they haven't really done you wrong, but they're just not quite there. They're just not quite with it. Don't treat them badly. There's no reason to treat them badly, even though it can be kind of annoying because you want them. It's like, just come on. Come on. What are you waiting for? Wake the fuck up. And you can have that feeling, but it's not on you, and it's not on you to wake them up necessarily. It's not on you. They're going to wake up on their own terms. They're going to wake up when the Most High is ready for them to be introduced to the awakening. Because a lot of the times, these people that are stuck in the matrix, these people that are stuck in the programs of social life, these people that have dating lives and love lives, these people that are so caught up in social media and just gaining clout, and it's really not going to be something that is sustainable for the long term if they wake up, because it might be too much for them. And so you can go keep speaking the truth. And again, you don't have to be rude to these people, but it's like, especially if you're seeing them around a lot. Like, I have some people at the gym that I see, and I don't talk too much whenever I'm going out. Like, I just don't like to talk too much. I like to keep to myself. I like to keep a low profile. And especially like in my personal community, like, I'll be kind, I'll be outgoing. Like, I do love talking to people, but at the same time, I know what people are like. And so it's almost like if you can sense a hint of jealousy or envy from someone, you know that if you interact with them too much, there's going to be some kind of conflict that comes and arises sooner or later. And so sometimes it's best to just keep it surface level, keep it okay, and just be cool with it. And that's fine, but that's all you need to do. But some of these people at the gym, I'll give them a a gentleman's nod of acknowledgement, because especially if they are someone that has like asked me to spot them or something, I'll spot them, because I'm not like I'm there's no need for me not to. I could say no, but I like to help people succeed, and it doesn't mean that we're going to be friends afterward, but again, you can just be cordial with these people. And there's some women that are in my community that, I've talked to a little bit, and it just wasn't quite the right fit. And so I'm still going to treat them with respect and kindness. I'm not going to be rude and an asshole to them, but I'm sure as hell not going to go out of my way to talk to them anymore. Like if we happen to pass by, I don't even really acknowledge them. Like I'll acknowledge them out of my peripheral, but it's because I'm always keeping my head on a swivel. Like I just was raised in the kind of environment where if you're not alert, if you're not looking around at your environment, you don't have like situational awareness, you're going to get screwed. And I recommend this for anybody now, like especially nowadays. You have to have situational awareness and self-awareness when it comes to your environment. Even when I'm at the coffee shop, I make sure my back is against the wall. And the reason for that is because I know no one will come up behind me. And I know some people may think that that's a bit paranoid, but I will make sure that my back is against the wall if I need to. And if I want to listen to music or something while I'm working, like I'll listen to classical music to just get me more focused. But I'm going to make sure that no one's going to come up behind me, and I have everything in front of me that I need to. And if there isn't a seat available to sit at have my back facing toward the wall, then I don't like to wear my headphones. I don't like to do anything. I need to make sure that I'm aware situationally, because anything can happen. I've been in situations where it's crazy, like people have pulled out guns, and I wasn't necessarily raised in the ghetto, but I was raised in a city that wasn't necessarily the most, like, there was gang activity. I'll just say that there was gang activity. And so I knew that I had to be aware, and I had to know that, you have to give certain kinds of people respect because you don't know who you're talking to. And part of that spiritual resistance that comes up when you are talking to certain people, like you might feel it in your stomach, you might feel it in your shoulders, or you might get that queasy feeling in your legs. That's the spirit speaking to you that something's going on that you need to be paying more attention to. And I know that if I'm in the presence of someone that is really like anxious and talkative, I know that they have a lot of trauma likely to deal with and to talk through. And they probably haven't felt heard most of their life. And you can tell, it's almost like you can get to a point to where you can tell what kind of trauma people have based off of the way that they're interacting, and even just how their bodies are formed. Like you can just look at someone's body and you can see like where their trauma is at based off of how their body is. Like if they have more of a wider hip per se, if they have more wider hips and it narrows, a lot of the times, not only does that signal fertility biologically, of course, for women, but usually that also means that there's been a lot more stored up as far as energy goes in those lower energy regions. Now, some of the people that I've talked to about chakras are Christian, and a lot of the times Christians don't understand what chakras really are because they haven't experienced it. And I was never someone that was all about chakras until I experienced it a few years ago. And I've made a video on this called Kundalini Awakening. Actually, I don't remember the exact title, but I know Kundalini Awakening is in the title. So if you want to do more research onto why the chakras, I am a proponent, I would say, of chakras, go check out that video, because I do talk about a dream I had with Jesus where he talks to me about the chakras, basically. And so, anyway, you can go check that out for more information. But a lot of the times, if people have, like, one of the reasons why men can have wider shoulders is because they have more energy stored in their heart chakra and their throat and their third eye, etc., and their crown. And the reason for that is because they're more logical, they're more present-based, whereas women are more emotional-based. And that makes sense, right? Because the lower chakras, the solar plexus, the sacral chakra, and the root chakra is all related to more basic human functions, such as financial needs, safety, food, sexual reproduction, and confidence and self-esteem, etc. So it makes sense that those are the way that they are, because they're just energy centers. The best way to think about chakras are energy centers in the body. And it's just more of a concentration of your nervous system in a certain area. That's the best way I can describe it as far as a practical approach. And you'll notice that if you have spiritual resistance in your chakras, just by what's going on in your world, you know, if you in certain kinds of sicknesses or illnesses or injuries that you have are related to how you're living your life. So let's say you have like a sore throat, or you have a running nose, or you have a headache or something. It's likely that your throat chakra is being blocked in some way. Or if you have a headache, there's something going on with your crown chakra, which is directly related to your connection to the divine. And so a lot of the times, if you have a faulty connection to the divine or God, then you're not in your spirit. You're acting too materialistically, or you're acting too much into the world. So there's an array of things that can go on inside the spiritual resistance topic here. But I think I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. I know there's plenty more to talk about on this kind of subject, but I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.